I, F17, think my stepdad, M46, might have a thing for me. Yes, I know this sounds like clickbait or a shitty porno, but I need help and advice. Sorry if this isn't the place to post this, but it's the first subreddit that came to mind, and I didn't want to talk to anyone I know in real life about this for hopefully obvious reasons. So my mom got remarried about 4 or 5 years ago now to my new stepdad Steve. I never had an issue with this as he was a really cool and nice guy. He never tried to replace my dad, who isn't dead but just isn't in my life, but he was always very supportive. The other day I was looking for some headphones because mine were broken, and knowing my mom always puts the ones you get with new phones in her nightstand, I went looking in there. I didn't find any in hers, so I thought fuck it and checked Steve's nightstand too. I didn't find any headphones, but what I did find was a pair of what were definitely my panties and pictures of me. Now if it was just pictures of me I wouldn't think anything of it. He's always treated me like his daughter, so that wouldn't be too weird. But this coupled with the panties, as if that wouldn't have been enough on its own, really freaked me out, so I put everything back how I found it and left their room. Since then I've just been hyper aware of how he behaves around me and feel panicked whenever he touches me or hugs me, and I think back to any time he's done it in the past and just wonder if he was trying to feel me up or something. I don't know whether I should talk to my mom about this. He's never made sexual advances towards me in any way or anything like that, so could I just be overthinking something that could have a reasonable explanation? I'm just going into worst case scenario thinking and imagining him secretly having a thing for me and jerking off to my underwear or something gross like that. Update. I'm sorry I took so long to update people on this, especially since I didn't make any comments on my post before it was locked. I'm pretty shaken up still, so again this post may not be entirely coherent. In all honesty, after making the post and seeing the first couple of comments come in, it kind of all became a bit too real for me and I started panicking, so just took myself to bed. Seeing as I then had school in the morning, I didn't get the chance to read through everything until after school, and by then it was too late to comment on my last post. Please know that I've read every comment and I appreciate everybody who gave me advice and believed me. I was pretty torn up about whether to tell my mom or not, but it was a pretty constant thing people were telling me. She's never not believed me about something before, but with something this big I was worried. Plus all the comments saying I had made this up kind of shook my confidence about whether she'd believe me. I ended up asking her to go for a walk with me, which is something we do semi-often anyways, so it wasn't that weird and wouldn't have alerted Steve. I almost didn't tell her in the end, but she could tell something was wrong and got me to tell her. She was pretty quiet for a while, but then she started crying. She said she hoped there was a reasonable answer to this, but until she spoke to him and we figured it all out, I should stay at my aunt's just in case. So I went and stayed at my aunt's last night. We told Steve I was staying at a friend's. At school today my mom texted me saying I should come home after school so we could talk about it. She didn't tell me much about what happened, but Steve is gone now. She kicked him out I think, and it doesn't sound like he'll be coming back. I don't know if they're going to get a divorce. It sounds like they weren't doing as great as I had thought, and when she confronted him he just didn't say anything but obviously looked panicked. She ended up forcing a confession out of him as she threatened to call the police, and he admitted he was attracted to me. They were getting better though apparently, and my mom had even said to him the other day that she thought it was great how he was affectionate with me, hugging me and treating me like his own, which she now feels sick about. I'm not sure if we're going to get the police involved, or if they'd even do anything since I'm 17 anyways and he didn't actually do anything to me. Plus I'm not sure I'd want to deal with the hassle of it all. I kind of just want to move on with my life and help my mom heal. I don't think she blames me, but I can't help but feel like I ruined her marriage. So that's about it really. Thank you everyone for your concern. I'll actually stick around to answer comments this time, and thank you to everybody who told me about their own experiences, encouraging me to speak up. I mentioned it before, but there were a few comments insisting that my post was fake and that apparently I had posted a different incest story earlier. This was my first post on this account. I didn't see that other post and I had nothing to do with it. Unfortunately, just because something happens in porn doesn't mean it doesn't happen in real life. Please don't make such constant comments on posts like this in future. Even if they turn out to be fake, you could stop somebody from speaking up as they think no one would believe them. Some people also wondered about how an account that wasn't even a day old would think to ask on this sub. I am a frequent user on Reddit. I made a throwaway account because I'm not going to post about my stepfather being a potential pedophile on an account that actually be connected to me. If you still don't believe me, that's fine. Plenty of other people have given me helpful advice, and as another commenter said, if any other person can read those comments and find something helpful, then that's a good thing. Update 2. Relationship advice took this down without saving the body text as I was unaware I was only allowed one update post. So I've reposted it here. I was really hoping I wouldn't have to make another update, but things have kind of gone to shit. After my mom kicked Steve out, everything was actually going okay to start with. We hung out a lot and she took time off work, partly to spend time with me and I think partly to deal with what happened. We never really talked about it specifically as I could sense that she wasn't ready to talk about it more yet, and honestly neither was I, so I was fine with that. As the week went on though, I noticed she seemed to be getting worse. She was talking less and wasn't eating as much, and I even heard her crying one night. I really didn't know what to do, so I just didn't mention it to her. Then, maybe a week after she kicked him out, I came home from school and found Steve back in the house. I freaked out about this and went to talk to my mom, but she just stayed silent and avoided eye contact with me. I kind of figured out on my own that she missed him a lot and decided to ask him to come back. This was 5 days ago. Since then my mom's been noticeably happier and more of her usual self, but she refuses to talk about what happened, or punish Steve for it in any way. Now that he's been welcomed back, it's as if he's bolder since he knows he can get away with it. He keeps lingering by the bathroom whenever I have a shower, hugging me from behind, and has started just walking into my room unannounced. Anytime he touches me he definitely lingers. I'm really worried he might try and take things further and have cried myself to sleep most nights. I feel completely unsafe in my own home. I tried staying at my aunt's or a friend's a few times, but they were busy, and since I haven't told them what's going on I couldn't make them have me over. I think maybe I should tell my friends, as then they might let me stay with them for a bit, but from how my mom's reacted I'm fucking terrified to tell anyone else, as they might just brush it off. I don't know what to do. It's obvious I can't trust my mom now and I don't know who to turn to. I'm going to start saving money so that hopefully when I turn 18 I can move out. Edit. Off the back of everyone's comments I've spoken to my aunt. She now knows everything, and although she's going away for work for the next week she's given me keys to her place and is letting me stay there for now. We both agreed we wouldn't tell my mom or Steve where I was, as I'm worried he might come over if he knew I was in a house by myself. I will also look into getting locks for if I have to go back to my house, and I've requested a meeting with the school counselor to talk about everything. Thank you everyone, I'll keep you updated when / if anything changes. Update 3. I figured it would be worth making a new post as a lot has happened in the past month that I know some of you would be interested in hearing about, plus with certain things that have come to light I'm in need of even more advice. As of my last post, I moved in with my aunt. At the time this was just a temporary thing, but now I've pretty much completely moved in. She took me to collect my stuff from my house one day while Steve was at work. I eventually told my mom, and by extension Steve, where I was staying, more for her peace of mind than anything else, as I didn't want her thinking I was homeless or something. That kind of stopped her demanding to know where I was and to come home, as my aunt made it clear how disgusting she found my mom's behavior and that she was ready to protect me since she clearly wasn't. Like I said previously though, my aunt goes away for work a lot, so most of the time I have the place to myself, which is pretty sweet, but unfortunately Steve is aware of this too. He tried coming over to talk to me a few times when I was home alone, but I locked the door and threatened to call the police if he didn't leave. He hasn't bothered me since. After taking into account people's advice, I told my friends about what happened. I had to at some point, as they were eventually going to realize I was living with my aunt and I wanted them to be able to come over too. Sadly, this is where things got even more fucked up. Once my friends knew what had happened, some of them came forward to me, and it turns out a few of them had run-ins with Steve. For some of them he had just made creepy comments and remarks that they'd brushed off at the time. Another had actually gotten messages from him on Facebook, telling her how good she'd looked the last time she'd come over, complimenting her new pictures and making it clear that she turned him on, even offering to show proof. The worst was with my best friend, Lucy. She didn't go into too much detail about it, but I could tell it was hard for her to talk about. Nearly a year ago, probably the last time she had stayed over at my house, she had run into him when getting some water at night. He'd said something about how a girl her age shouldn't be wearing such revealing pajamas, blocking her from leaving the kitchen, and just kind of kept telling her how good she looked at that she must be wanting for people to notice. She was pretty uncomfortable about and tried getting past him, and he took the opportunity to grope her. Fortunately he didn't take it any further than that. I feel completely disgusted, both at Steve and also myself. I can't help but think that if I'd noticed something sooner that I could have spared my friends from this. I think part of me was trying to rationalize his behavior, which is why I didn't make a report at first. I thought maybe it was fine since I'm almost 18 anyways. But knowing that he's been behaving like this, with my friends going as far back as when one of them was 15, is just disgusting. I was being stupid before. I realize now how horrible he really is. I've spent a lot of time with Lucy since, trying to make sure she's okay. I'm not sure it really sunk in for her what happened until she told us about it. We all agreed to make reports with the police after that, which we have done now. Right now I'm kind of just waiting to see what happens, and praying that he gets arrested. Sorry if that's kind of a rushed recap, but the last part makes me quite uncomfortable to talk about. I'm happy to answer any questions people have, but mostly I'm looking for more advice now. So I guess now I have some new questions, mainly being how do I go forward with my mom? I'd love nothing more than to have her back in my life, but I'm just not ready to act like nothing happened. How can I support my friend through dealing with what happened to her? And how should I prepare myself and my friends in the event Steve does get arrested? Final update. Hi. So first things first, I'm really sorry it's taken me so long to post anything. I want to thank everyone who reached out to me in past 6 months offering support and wanting to know how I'm doing. I'm okay. Kind of a lot's happened and at first I didn't want to dwell on anything but just get on with my life. I felt like I owe it to everyone to give a final update, but the thought of writing everything out really intimidated me. I kept worrying that I wouldn't write enough or that I'd miss things out, but I've had enough time that I'm comfortable now. This won't be super lengthy, but I think I'll have hit all the major points. Also, I don't know shit about law, so prepare for some potential inaccuracies in my terminology. I've rambled enough, on to the shit you actually care about. About 5 months ago my aunt went on one of her work trips. In a brief conversation with my mom I was stupid and let it slip she wasn't around. She must have mentioned this to Steve because at like 10 p.m. the same night he showed up to my aunt's house. Once I realized it was him on the other side of the door I wouldn't open it, but he refused to leave. He was speaking to me through the front door, begging that we sit down, have a drink and just talk about all this. There was no way in hell I was about to let him into my house when I was by myself, so after almost 2 hours of telling him to fuck off I ended up phoning the police. I told them my stepfather was at my house and refusing to leave, insisting he be let inside, that I was concerned for my safety. I also reminded them of the reports my friends and I had made previously. They came and escorted him away, but he was quite agitated and I'd mentioned I was worried he'd hurt me, so they searched him. He had Rohypnol on him. At this point it was pretty easy to assume he had planned to roofie me. I also asked them to look at the messages he'd sent to my friends on his phone, which is when they also found an album of pictures of me. These were pictures I had taken for my boyfriend when I was 15/16. He had somehow stolen them off my phone. He was arrested for possession of child porn. At this point I went fully no contact with my mom other than he sending me updates on what was happening. He had his trial like a month ago and plead guilty to possession of CP. He was charged with that and a few other things that I can't remember the terms for, but the important thing is he's been sentenced to 8 years in prison. My aunt's been amazing this whole time though. I've turned 18 now, so don't need a legal guardian, but I'd like it if she became mine. I've not spoken to my mom since she told me he'd been sent to jail. I get regular texts from her and it's obvious she wants to repair our relationship and knows she's in the wrong, but I don't think I can ever trust her again. I'm sorry this was kind of brief after such a long time. I'll be around all day to answer any questions if you have any or I missed anything. Fingers crossed I never need to post on this sub again.